into the political critique or rather reaction. Welcome on board, and I hope that you understand from the topic the focus of our discussion today and the reaction into the current politics in Kenya. Yeah. So of course, people, you saw the call Miguna made, you know, to sit, or rather he was called, and you actually saw the interaction there. So it's a very hot discussion, given that Matiang'I has been actually walking around and proving that he will be running for presidential seats. Now, we've been discussing these matters long, but then we have to look at the approach and what impact does Miguna have from the discussion that we saw yesterday. So, guys, welcome on board. This is Prissy for you, and today is another grand new day. We appreciate and thank God for the live. I'll really appreciate if you come on board and abide by the community guidelines, share your chats, contribute towards the topic, and make the discussion live. So right on Live Saga TV, we believe in sharing truth and actually giving an entertaining delivery of the content. So come and feel free to participate in our reaction today. Whatever engagements you feel you have to participate, we know you receive a lot of information from the people act, yeah, and we normally really appreciate what views they offer here, yeah. Yeah, so of course you remember very well during that year, during election, and Miguna, of course, was the one who swore in Raila. He was in that crew. And immediately after that, his house was invaded, and of course, he was forced out of the country. Now, according to him, he feels that the reporters in Kenya have biased reporting because they never actually came out to show the destruction in his houses and so much. You know, all of us remember what happened. If you were here during that time and you really were following news, nobody can skip on that information. But sooner or later, people kept quiet and we continued with business. That's Kenya for you. In Kenya, people can remember you in a very short time. And once it's done and dusted, they forget about you. Guys, thank you. I can see one person on board. Welcome. And give me a like as we start this. And I hope you're very fine during this day. Yeah, lots of appreciation, big up for you for being the first to arrive here. You can actually chat and inform us where you are. 2 people on board. Welcome. And let's discuss this matter of Miguna. How do you feel about Miguna's yesterday's discussion on interview on Citizen, and I also dug into Obina show interview, guys. So that's our discussion for today, and I have lots of time, so we can be here as much as you want, and as much as you keep the discussion live. Thank you, 10 people on board. Thank you so much. May God bless you. As we go into this political discussion, I told you that politics is part of our game. We can't forget or forfeit it, It's what makes our life move on. A human being is political, social, economic, and the rest come later. So thank you. I have about 10 people on board. Thank you so much for coming by. You mean a world to me, because when I do any live and see people around, it means that you really want me to go on with whatever I'm doing. So guys, if you've not seen around the streets what is happening, Miguna is here to revenge. Is it a revenge or rather unleash, unleash, what he thinks he should do? Now, I don't know what you believe about Miguna. Do you think he's a reactionist? Do you think he's a radical? Or what exactly do you believe about him? I remember the other time when he was actually pushed out of the country, some people are like, he deserves it. But then there are others who felt like being a Kenyan, he shouldn't have experienced what he did. So what is your thought? Maybe you can just comment in the comment section and we proceed on. Yeah, so this hot from the kitchen, coffee, hot coffee with ginger, all that. And if dare take it like that without cooling your tempers, you will actually find a very challenging moment. So guys, welcome on board. I am inviting you first before I start this reaction deep into it, because I know we don't have much to talk, but we are actually just checking the environment surrounding the topic. Susan Kimani, I think he should stay out. Why do you think he should stay out? Do you think is going to create chaos, or rather disturb or distort or something like that? Yeah, because I looked at how he was addressing the Kenyan, and he was saying voters are the problem. I don't know what you feel about it, Susan. That's exactly what he said in one of the interviews, especially the one he had with Obina some time back, I believe. Okay, Susan Kimani says yes. So she thinks that he will create more chaos, with the current wave, and especially now that Raila got into the government, the same government that he has been fighting. And given that Miguna, of course, you understand, he even wrote a book about Raila Odinga at some point, and people are like, this guy, why is he attacking his brother? So he has come out, of course, and when you look at the Ontario Citizen interview, you actually see that he's full of bitterness, ready to throw the backlash, and very much irritated at the current affair of events. And he's proving, rather suggesting that he might be running for a position in Kenya. I don't know how Kenyans feel about this. I would actually think of having so many of you giving views here, and from that maybe we can add 1+1 to get to see what we have to get. Yeah, so remember Matiang'I is in the opposition currently. He's been walking around with Gachagua a lot. And people are like, will he be a presidential candidate and Gachagua the same, or will they pick one person? And they're asking whether Matiang'I should go for it or whether it's Gachagua. Of course, the Kisii community is behind Matiang'I, while maybe we have other communities standing with other candidates. And that's the state of affairs as we wait for 2027. Kenya, I told you, it's a country whereby after elections, immediately after elections, you find that somehow they don't rest for long. Campaigns start immediately. People falling out and forming other parties, to start their the campaign strategies for the next leadership. And I don't know whether you think these people do it for the interest of the country, or rather when they fall out, they do for revenge purposes, guys. So I'm waiting to see some responses here before I can proceed. Yeah, so Susan alone has responded here. I don't know if the rest of the people are going to come by, But it is what it is. If you know the tingo, you actually understand the game. So ladies and gentlemen, today we are reacting to pure fire, guys. Miguna, yes. The general himself pulled up to Citizen TV and lit the studio up. Matiang'I caught strays. Obina tried to keep everything together again in his own. He shared it. Of course, I believe this is something he did long ago, but it was smoke from the start to finish. Let's drive in, right? Yeah, so I'm going to play this clip just to make you see what exactly he was saying and what is your thought about it. Yeah, so first of all, Miguna should be somebody you understand. All right. So guys, let's dive in. All right. So guys, let's dive in. Let's dive in here. Let's see this. Remember, he calls himself barrister with so many degrees, So we can't ignore what he's bringing on board because it may have an impact. Let's think about it. Let's bring it out. And remember, as we are talking about Miguna, he's not the only one spitting fire, but we have Maraga. We've also seen some information from Justin Muturi. So do you think these are people who have been caught up with circumstances and kicked out, then they are now reacting. I don't know. I really actually need to have your views. And a political discussion is normally hot when everybody is coming on board. So come on board and give your ideologies. So let's start with that interview at Citizen. Here it is. Listen to that. It was a hard time for the news presenter. Here we go. I don't know. All right.
But also defied multiple court orders. Now, and we are joined by Dr. Miguna. Good afternoon to you, Dr. Good afternoon, Eddie. What exactly did you want to respond to with regards to the interview we recently had with the former Interior CS? Well, there are legacy of issues, chief of which is the culture of impunity, which Dr. Matiang'I epitomizes and exemplified, particularly when he served as the Interior Cabinet Secretary. But I specifically wanted to refer to many instances where Dr. Matiang'I subjected not just me to atrocious abuse, torture, and violations of my constitutional and human rights, but also defied multiple court orders in an egregious and unconscionable manner. Dr. Matiang'I exemplified the abuse of power in its purest form. And then when you hosted him, I barely had him interrogated on what he did. The Rivayala murders, the abduction that he engaged in, the destruction of my house, my abduction and detention in Communicado, and torture of many days in defiance of multiple court orders. His forceful exile of me, one when I was sedated and unconscious and dumped in Dubai, and then subsequently him issuing illegal red alerts and stopping me from returning to Kenya for 5 long years. If we want to transform the country, and I believe we do as Kenyans, we cannot tolerate, entertain, and coddle characters like Matiang'I, who have not been punished, even though there were several court orders that found not just that he subverted the constitution, but that he was unfit to hold public office. Okay. He has not honored any of those court orders. He has not paid the damages that he was awarded to pay, including the conviction by Justice Odunga. Okay. On March 28, 2018, which he has not paid. Okay. Contempt conviction that he has not paid. Okay.
All right, so guys, you've heard that, right? That is frying, political frying. So Miguna is actually frying Matiang'I for what he did during the time. I hope all of you remember how Miguna was pulled, or rather deported from Kenya. If you don't remember the videos, let me play you some videos here very fast. And that was 2018, around March. There's a time he even resisted the deportation. He was deported, then had to come back, and then he deported again, right? So after the interview we had, I'll be showing that shortly, with Matiang'I being interrogated by Citizen. Miguna has come out with a response showing that the government, or rather the journalists in Kenya, are a bit biased, deciding to show the positive side of somebody and avoiding the rest. According to him, Matiang'I is the face of impunity, an individual who abuses power and who has contempt for court, and who can show the worst part of him is if given leadership. So do you understand what Miguna is doing here? So let's get to that incident that happened at the airport. Remember, Raila tried to help, but then later on when he got into the broadband government, everything was forgotten. Let's see this. That is Miguna for you. If you know, you know. So that is what happened to Miguna. He was pulled out of the country and had to be deported. And of course, he was harassed by the police. And we saw him talking about how they had led him to the Dubai flight. Let's see here. Him shouting about not boarding.
Miguna being forcefully bundled onto a Dubai-bound commercial flight.
I'm not going. Where my luggage? Where's my passport? I'm not going anywhere. The captain
Shocked cabin crew staring as Miguna tells the flight captain of his flight.
This court order say I must be in this country. Yeah. Why are they not allowing you to? Because of politics. They are scared of me. Now you, as a captain, is not allowed to fly me anywhere against my will.
Miguna was dramatically whisked away right in front of NASA leader Raila Odinga.
So you actually remember that that time Raila Odinga was helpless and he could not actually help Miguna to stay in the country regardless of being born in Nyanza. You know, we are told that he had spent 2 nights at JKIA, right? And of course, we saw reports about the court saying that he should be back. You know, Chiloba even thought that he is the best thing that came, you know, that came to the world after the sliced bread. I don't know. Yeah, let's again see this one.
Days, NASA activist and self-declared National Resistance Movement NRM Miguna was held in his toilet at the JKIA Terminal 2. And on Wednesday evening, as his lawyers made another attempt to serve immigration officials with his release orders, a plan was hatched to once again ship him to Kenya.
I just woke up here in Dubai. They don't do anything. And there is a G here, a Kikuyu man, very rude. Insisting that he's going to brutalize me further. I need the international community. I need everyone on this case. Contact the international media and tell them I'm going nowhere. I'm going back to Kenya.
The move angering his lawyers who had put a spirited fight in court to save him from deportation.
They broke through my door. 100 of them helped me to the ground. Choked me, dragged me, injected me on both my feet, injected me on my ribs, injected me on my hands.
Similar tones of anger also echoed by opposition members of parliament who demanded his return to Kenya.
We want to say that we condemn.
So, of course, we saw Robert Mbui then as the deputy minority leader trying to defend Miguna at that time. So Miguna now has come up with that story to actually use it to hammer against the then CS Interior, who was Matiang'I then. Now remember, sometimes people forget that when they are going to be vying for this position, maybe history will turn back to them and ghosts, the living ghosts, or rather the ghosts that used to be there, will now have to awake. So unfortunately for Matiang'I, given that he's going for the presidential seat, Miguna has decided to arise. Remember, the current situation is that Matiang'I had an interview with Citizen. And of course, when your enemy sometimes is holding such an interview, you would be the first to hear, right? So it happened that Miguna did not sit in Ontario just relaxing. Miguna had to listen to this interview. And he seems to have followed everything. Collins Olo, hi, how are you? We are into political analysis of Miguna's effect on Matiang'I and maybe Sakaja and the rest of the leaders in Kenya. And what actually is his impact on the current politics of Kenya. So Collins Olo, welcome on board. Thank you so much for coming by. Thank you for the like. And let's go into the Matiang'I interview on Citizen. And you can contribute towards what you think will happen. What is the impact Miguna has from what he has been sharing on the, that is on the Citizen, and apart from that, there is this interview he did at Obina Show, if you've been following that, you know. Yeah, so at Citizen, he did an interview, and during that interview, Miguna purports that the media never asked him, you know, questions that needed to be asked. So let's go back to that interview and see what he had to say, you know. That is 2 weeks ago. I remember listening to that interview.
Citizen TV and staying with us, we want to have a conversation with Dr. Fred Matiang'I. You may remember him. He was once the for all of us. My name's Emmanuel.
All right, so let's skip some details, maybe skipped, because we are not going into everything, but what is relevant to our discussion today. So feel free to participate in the discussion. Of course, he was there to clear airs.
Every one of us comes from a particular place in this world, wherever it is, whether you come from Jerusalem or Jericho or wherever it is you come from. When you arrive at that particular place you're going home, you go home. I don't know how much you followed the American presidential elections historically. There isn't a single American presidential candidate who puts up a headquarters for their campaign away from their own state. In the case of the US, everyone has a state. Bill Clinton was working from Arkansas. Obama was working from Chicago and so on. Joe Biden from Delaware and so on. People work from their state. It meant the simple fact that every one of us comes from a particular place in this world. And when you...
So that he was clearing airs on why he's possibly Kisi, right?
Places building. In any case, by the way, if we have to cover the country, we have to move in that kind of manner. If 2 or 3 people are in Narok today, 1 or 2 others are in Nairobi meeting another group of people, or 1, 2 others are meeting others, we will coalesce. As I said, this is building time. And building time cannot...
He was also defending the coalition.
Before. I know the capacity of our national intelligence. And so I'm somewhere, I don't know where the chain could have broken, but I'm sure that the government must have known what was going to happen at that particular time. But anyway, if it happened the way it happened, I expected personally that...
He also talked about the national intelligence because of the fact that the demonstration had been blamed on the opposition. And he went ahead.
The difference between the reality then and the reality now. The Gen Z would say we are going to have a peaceful... And actually what we saw was very organized, peaceful procession across the towns. What was happening in 2017 was a totally different story, as it were. And you see, as I said, the government has got instruments and machinery to collect information. We had information at that particular time that the nature and the character of that organization was actually going to cause danger to businesses, to individuals, and so on. And by the way, don't forget one thing, Sam. In 2017, when this was happening in places like in Mombasa, we were already, although we couldn't tell the public this, we were already dealing with terrorist sleeper cells that were alive in most cases. We had a big problem of approaching management of conflict because people are sued and taken to the international community for breaching even the conventions on war. Same thing with policing. Riots can happen, and they do happen, and they will happen, by the way. And when police are trained to deal with the challenge you usually have when you have served in government in particular positions and so on is to keep the discipline and the respect for your successors and those who come after you.
Yeah.
I don't know how they operate, so I don't want to pass judgment on them, but every time we had a very seamless relationship between the security sector and the legal advisory services of government. And then for them to wait until a particular time, then they say, oh, Matiang'I could be having guns. I find that very strange. Where were they when that was happening? And then it's their responsibility to know that the way this fellow is behaving, he normally has night meetings with people and he's recruiting these guns and so on. I don't want to pretend. I know for sure that the National Intelligence Service listens to our phone calls and so on and so forth. This happens. They have ways of collecting intelligence. So how is it that and so on, and you see it repeated over and over again? I've never had an opportunity myself to publicly look the cameras in the face and say this is what it is and so on. When in 2021 the issue of a report was published by a local media about bodies being pulled out of River Yala, just like I saw last week and the week before, for us, we asked the Inspector General of Police, Matiang'I, what was happening at that time. We agreed that the gravity of the situation is such that the DCI himself should go to that place and find out what's happening. The DCI spent some time there with a team from the DCI. When they came back, we asked for an inquest. We demanded an inquest at the National Security Council. We asked for an inquest. Can we go into this matter and find out what's happening? The DCI and the police told us, you know, fortunately for us, their bodies. Let us get the families to claim the bodies, then we build the stories from there. We open the file, we take statements from the families so that we understand the circumstances under which these people disappeared and the circumstances under which their bodies were found in the Wayala. By the time we were leaving government, the file was open. It was not closed at that particular time because in the call on.
So guys, you've had that interview, right? So the focus of discussion, of course, he was asked questions to do with the whole the Yala bodies, something that we've actually heard a lot. There was this other aspect of Nakuru massacre, when the young four guys were actually pulled down. And we've also had something, him sharing about what he did. Of course, I did a video early. If you didn't check on it, you can go check on Matiang'I's successes and failures. And of course, as he said, that when you're serving the government, sometimes you may be blamed for what you are not. I don't know whether you buy that. I don't know whether you can buy that. But then I'm just seeing the aspect of Miguna backlashing, and I'm seeing a real danger in this, right? I'm seeing a real danger. I don't know what you think. I don't know what you think. But as he is, maybe, depending on whether people will decide to stand with Miguna's word. And of course, we've heard from the grassroots some people actually asking questions about this, you know. The way they broke into Miguna's house, blindfolded him, injected him, deported him like a slave, and destroyed his passport. And he came about in this response, actually showing his passport and suggesting that he was born in Kenya, but he was deported. Yeah. So he said that regardless of how pure Matiang'I wants to show up his face here, he is not as clean as people may think. So of course, let's get back to that discussion and see how he's actually frying Matiang'I. This light is not good. It's not good. It's not good. Yeah, the light is not good for the video, actually. It makes it appear like a frosted something. Yeah, so let's get back to it and see what he's sharing. Collins Olo, where did you go? I also expect more people here.
We talked about the unfit part of him holding office.
You see, the problem with the Kenyan media, including yourself, is that instead of embracing your role, which is enshrined in the Constitution, to speak truth to power, to represent public interest, to advocate for public interest, and to be able to project accurate historical facts, you are engaged in propaganda. Uhuru Kenyatta was not president in 1987 when I was detained and exiled by President Moi. Uhuru Kenyatta was president in 2013.
But Dr. Miguna, to just pause you, Dr. Miguna, to just yeah, you will finish up. So that
Kenyatta and Dr. Matiang'I, who invaded my house and destroyed it on the 2nd of February 2018. I don't want you to run around and to avoid that fact. I could not have supported the destruction of my house. Of course, after I was abducted and tortured in violation of the Constitution and all my rights, and in defiance of court orders, Dr. Matiang'I went on television and released a statement after 6 days of my torture, brutal torture, which you refuse to acknowledge. And I have a copy of what Dr. Matiang'I released to the media, and I will read it. I, Fred Matiang'I, PhD, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government, responsible for immigration matters, blah, 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 hereby declare that Miguna, who is not a citizen of Kenya, and whose presence in Kenya is contrary to national interest, be removed from Kenya to his country of origin, Canada, and further direct that the said Miguna remain in prison custody while arrangements for removal are being undertaken. He signed this on the 6th of February 2018 after Justice Wakiada had issued an order of habeas corpus directing Dr. Matiang'I to release me, and after Justice Kimaru had issued repeated orders for my release, violations and egregious abuses that Dr. Matiang'I engaged in.
Yes, Dr.
Miguna. My passport, Dr. Matiang'I actually destroyed, physically destroyed.
Okay.
This is my Kenyan, valid Kenyan passport.
Okay.
Let's talk about these issues, because if we don't, we're going to help this country.
Point taken, Daktari. And you have always championed for the cardinal principle of constitutionality. We'll talk more about that. This was just a starter of what will be forthcoming.
Yeah, so that was the heated discussion, of course, we saw between Abdi and Miguna. And of course, you can surely see that he's very bitter and responding to that interview and insisting that they must, if they were playing the vital role of journalism, they are supposed to have interrogated him into aspects to do with impunity, poor governance, the contempt of court, the abduction, and such as things to do with Yala. Of course, you heard in the interview Matiang'I responding to the Yala massacre. I don't know whether you are satisfied with that response. In relation to deportation, they did not ask any question, of course. Now, I went further to check on another video that was done. I don't think it was recent, even though Obina decided to release it yesterday, I think after he saw the interview on Citizen. But we can actually see that it's an interview that was done long ago. But playing it on the public media, it is something that is actually frying some of the leaders. What is your thought? Actually, I would wish that people contribute here and share their thought about this kind of response. Is Miguna still being radicalist? Is he being extraordinarily reactionist? Or what do you feel about his response in this video, Is he even being reasonable, maybe if I may ask? Is he standing for justice, Is he, does his impact actually prove that the leadership in Kenya, even for those who are vying for the position, is just a waste of time, and that they may just be as equal to the current regime, Those are the questions I'm raising here for you. So let's get to this Obina show. And this is one of the places I saw that Miguna was actually giving bang after bang, bang after bang. Now, why is it that regardless of Miguna talking as he does, he did not really receive a good reception from the voters when he tried to vie for the position of governance in Nairobi? So let's get to this.
Otherwise you get hurt. Are you going to run again? That is too early. It's too early to decide whether I'm going to run. Yeah, or whether I'm going to run. But it's something for me to consider. A lot of people are saying I should run, so I'm considering it. Okay. We
just had an election. So I think it's too early for people to start campaigning for things.
Okay.
They should let these guys, do their thing or mess. Let the country realize that you shouldn't be electing thugs. You shouldn't elect inept people. You shouldn't elect thieves. And when the right time comes...
Guys, you heard Miguna. Miguna is labeling all the leaders inept, thugs, and thieves. Is he rightful? Or is he particularly focused towards certain leaders? And he says that once elections are over, there's no need to discuss what is in. That the voters should face the impact. So here, of course, he's indirectly blaming the voters for casting their votes to people who are not worth, for not actually listening to him. And do you think he's immune from this fact of being inept, thug, and theft? Thief, thug, and inept. Because I did another political analysis and I was asking you, do we have one single Kenya who will actually go out there and stop, never at all, steal for the citizens, never practice violence and abductions, and never lead in a selfish manner that focuses on amassing wealth for themselves? Do we have such an opportunity? Do we have such leaders anyway? That's my question.
Hopefully the country will make the right decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think of Sifuna, though?
What do you mean? He's a senator.
Yeah, but...
So why should I say anything about a senator? I'm not interested in becoming a senator of Nairobi. Right? Okay. Unless you ask me about a specific thing, I don't think I should just be saying things about people.
No. If he is to be... is he worthy to be elected for even a bigger position?
I mean, he's a Kenyan. He can run, right?
No, running, yeah.
But election is about voters. It's not about Miguna. I'm not the one who elects. But in terms of academic qualifications, he's qualified. And he's a Kenyan. He has reached the age where he can run for any office, just like me and you.
Okay.
Yeah. But he's not like the other ones you've mentioned. Clearly not. You can't compare Sifuna to Babu. They're not of the same class.
Now, guys, ask yourself why. Why is he actually... At first, he was trying to avoid talking about Sifuna. You know? And when Obina was insisting to ask him about Obina, there is a given direction he wanted. He wanted to see what Miguna has. What ideology does he hold of Sifuna? Of course, knowing that he's a radical person who talks anything about anybody. He comes here and he defends himself. He says he doesn't just go about talking about anybody. And it's not about him. So here, of course, the voters in Kenya, we are being fried. Miguna is frying us, you know. If you have checked the book, The Samaritan, that book blames the voters. That it's the voters. Mayor Mosi, alongside Seimwa, Ramdae, you know, and the rest of them, Ted, they are in government because the voters put them there, regardless of their ineptness, thuggery, and theft, you know. So here, Miguna is playing that aspect of writing like John Lara. I'm almost beginning to think, is he the one who wrote this book or what? But Miguna, I know, wouldn't write in another person's name, a pen name, you know. Because that book tells us clearly that if you look at Ted, he was not qualified to be a leader. But people voted him because of the money. Mosi blames the voters that if you vote a monkey into an office, when it begins to jump around and eat bananas all over and even make noise in the office, you don't blame anybody. You blame nobody, the Americans, black Americans. So that is the politics of Miguna. I don't know. What is your thought about what he says, you know? What is your thought? What do you think? And let's listen to what he says, because he has brought the controversy comparing Obina, not Obina. He's now comparing Babu Owino and Sifuna. What does he have to say about Sifuna and Babu? In fact, how does Babu come in? Because Obina had not asked about Babu. He had asked about Sifuna. So what has he to say? Let's listen to that.
Sifuna actually went to school properly. He did not steal and did not threaten teachers to give him marks. Babu did. All right. Let's come back to Nairobi. Floods are happening. People are actually blaming Sakaja for the floods that are currently happening in Nairobi. But we've seen even Brazil, there's very serious floods. Now, I don't think that is the issue. I don't think the issue, it's almost like saying we have unemployment, we have poverty, but there are poverty even in the United States. No, that's not how you deal with issues. Okay. We are Kenyans.
Now, are you seeing what Miguna is saying, that we cannot keep saying that, for example, our president came out with a statement last week saying that they shouldn't blame him because even joblessness was there when Kibaki was there, Uhuru, and anybody else. It did not start today. So Miguna is just indirectly saying that we cannot blame other people who are there for whatever happened because we are now here. We cannot also compare our country to other places because we are our own and we shouldn't be using the threshold of failures to compare what is there and what should be there, you know. So in this, I feel like he's indirectly trying to prove the leaders wrong. I don't know what you feel here.
In Nairobi, we are having issues in Nairobi. What is it that a governor ought to have done that would have mitigated the problems? You understand? Okay. So, for example, 1 year is a long time. You can build storm sewer systems. You can build drainage systems. You can clean the city in 1 year. You can put in place infrastructural plans to deal with problems. 1 shilling for industrialization, not 1 shilling for infrastructure development, not 1 shilling for healthcare, not 1 shilling for education. So what is it that is done with the money? These are questions. So you can't just say Brazil there is flooding. No. We want to know what you've done in Nairobi. The riparian lands, wetlands that are occupied, that were grabbed before, has he tried to repossess even at 0.0001%? No. Instead he's grabbing. So no, Sakaja is a criminal, a bad one. And what is he doing about these constructions that are being done all over by Chinese, unplanned, disorganized, unnecessary tall buildings that are being constructed, you know, clearly in violation of planning bylaws? Why? Because he's getting kickbacks.
Guys.
Every city in the...
Guys, Miguna has just said that Sakaja is a criminal. 1, not doing anything about the Chinese violation of construction law. Is he becoming Seimwa here? He has also indicated that he has not actually used the money within the city to develop anything, you know, allocate towards health, education, or whatever it is. Even drainage systems, given that we have floods, you know. So is this actually a blame as what Mosi encounters from Maracas, Maracas municipality? So I told you that there is a lot of frying that Miguna is doing here. And we have people, of course, who will be listening. And they'll be taking some points, regardless of how radical this guy is. There are some points that people will be taking down. And what do you think will be the impact? So even after talking about Matiang'I in that response, he's not only focusing on Matiang'I, regardless of having been bitter on, you know, the self-damage that he went through as a relation of being deported forcibly, being injected, you know, and having his passport destroyed, him declared to be a Canadian. And of course we realize that it's not only during that time that he had to experience what he did. Let me relocate. There's a lot of sun there. Yeah, so we realize that it's not only during this time that Miguna suffers what he does. Let's get to more.
Must have a planning protocol. He drinks inside Uhuru Park. Yeah. Uhuru Park was supposed to be a green space, a recreational park. Yeah. It's not supposed to be a concrete jungle. But he's removing the clubs from the estates. That's what he said. So he's bringing them in a central place. Who told him? So what akuja piga kelele huko? My friend, first of all, a governor cannot dictate to people what to do about their city. Right? In accountable governance, the people make that decision for themselves through their elected leaders. Enjoy this space. We should have birds and animals and green spaces and remove all the concrete. Then it is a park. Then we should be able to rest all the parks that have been grabbed. That's what I would do if I were governor. Let all the neighborhoods have parks and recreational centers. The rule across the world for most of the places that are developed, you cut down one tree, you plant 15. Yeah, Kwangi 2, 15. And in developed countries, if you are a developer, you must plant trees, you must have recreational centers, you must have all these facilities for the residents where you are constructing. The Chinese here are constructing without regard to anything. Because for them it's extraction. My friend, you can only extract. In fact, there is nothing public that manages the environment in Nairobi County, that manages sanitation and cleanliness in Nairobi County. There is no transportation system in Nairobi County, right? The pension system, where does it go? People tell you go take NHIF card, but when your wife is delivering a child, they can't even be admitted at Kenyatta. And if they're admitted at a private clinic...
Yeah, so guys, if you listen to Miguna without actually focusing on personal aspect or whatever, you realize that he's frying the leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, from all that I've listened to Miguna sharing on Obina show and also sharing with Abdi in Citizen, it is quite clear that Miguna is sharing the kind of leadership that we are facing and the challenges we are facing ourselves. Maybe we don't see that much. The aspect of construction, a plan for construction of each town that is in the country, the aspect of green spaces, the green parks, the aspect of hospital management or rather health, the fact of engaging the individuals in whatever should be happening, and the fact of power misuse that is happening around us and impunity covering it up. So I know that maybe at a personal level, people may not like Miguna. But when you go to the critical analysis, you will actually see that he's hitting hard at some of the leaders, including Sakaja. Now remember, Babu Owino is going to vie for the gubernatorial seat of Nairobi, and of course people are focusing on him. He's also pointed some receipts on him. Maybe that aspect of threatening the teachers to give marks and, stealing exams that he has said may not be focused a lot by people, because people are now considering what Babu is doing on the ground and what maybe he may have done during the 2019, that is the corona time. But when you look at the attack he stands against Sakaja and against Matiang'I, it may have an impact. It may have an impact. Now let's turn to Justin Muturi. And he had to unmask a lot of stuff, about the current government, guys. So let's listen to partly what he said.
Yes.
And see this.
In the office of the Attorney General on that understanding.
Yes, I hear.
But I can assure you,
Yes.
it did not take me 2 months before I started seeing things, you would see He wants something things done in a particular way. Whenever you'll be having meetings with some people at State House, he calls me. And then I realize what he's trying to do is, I'm attending a meeting, and certain decisions are being discussed, and I will be asked, is that okay, AG? Is that, I say, it sounds good, but this is just a meeting.
Yes.
Until much later, I had to tell him, you know what? When you call me to a meeting where you are initiating some decisions,
Yes.
please don't assume that is where the AG gives his opinion. The AG's opinion must be in writing always, and it must be in response to something else that comes to the AG in writing.
Yes.
Making my calls.
The global AI market
Sorry
is
for that.
projected to reach $1 trillion.
Yeah, so of course, Muturi is another person who walked out of government. In fact, he had to resign. And he put up claims that his son had been abducted by the government, and he really put a foot, struggled to get to have the son back. You know?
So surely, when later, even the CS, the very CS Interior, who is now the DP, called, we spoke twice the next day. I told him, I now have information, very firm information, that is his niece, who and my son. I told him, call the DG, he's not picking.
Yes.
He calls me after about 10, 15 minutes, he tells me, no, it's not the DG. He has denied. Then I decided, why this guy is treating me like this?
Yes.
I did not, when I saw the choppers carrying the president from Nyandaro, he had attended church, I decided to drive myself to State House. And I go to State House.
Yes.
I wait for the president to finish what he was doing with some few members of parliament.
Without appointment,
without appointment. So I go and I tell him, no, you appear not to have seen my message. I sent you a message at 3 a.m. last night. He told me, that's when he told me that his phone had crashed. And that he even left it. So he called some young man who had left working on the phone, some technician. And the technician told him that, he asked him, is the phone okay now? He said, partly. You can make a call, but you cannot receive messages. We have not yet sorted out that problem.
Yes.
Because I think he had been sent too many messages. So I tell him, can you call Ludin? He's the one holding my son.
Yes.
And without hesitation, he just laughed a bit and then called Nurdin. We're just standing next to each other.
Yes.
He calls Nurdin and Nurdin, yes sir. Okay, yes sir, we'll release him. In the next 1 hour, you'll be at home. Now, and surely, and then after that, the president said that you see walking that way.
Jack, so we were having a discussion on the unraveling of matters around the government, and of course the first fact was focusing on Miguna, if you've ever heard about him, and what he has come up with, accusations against Matiang'I, who is actually vying for the presidential seat in Kenya. And away from that, we have so many other people in Kenya who have talked about what's happening, and one of them being of course, Honorable Muturi Justin, who worked closely with the president. Of course, he came up with a story about his son being abducted, and he finally got his help by meeting the president in person. We have also Maraga, who has come out with his own story. So we are just unraveling into the political situation in Kenya. You know, being a political analyst, we have to travel through a lot of things, and some of them, of course, covered within the title. So, Jack, welcome on board. I hope now you understand what you're doing. You can give me a like, and we proceed. If you have any contribution to make towards the aspect of Miguna, Muturi, Maraga, and any other person, you are welcome on board. Of course, Sifuna being one of them, welcome on board. Yeah. So these are politics from Kenya, right?
My son was not involved. He's older than that. He cannot be involved in those kind of things. Then he even told me, even the son of Bungei, who was in the Nairobi area commander,
yes,
had been involved. He even told me, as a nephew of head of public service,
yes,
had also been involved. So he cracked a joke and said, why would anybody bother arresting these boys because of demonstrations?
Guys, so you realize that in Kenya, some of the sons to these leaders, you can actually hear him listing the son of Bugei, his son, and the niece to Web. So it means that these people who go for demonstration are not only the kids from families, as people have been thinking. The unmasking that Muturi offers here is that some of their sons also participate in this demonstration, but they go about to save their sons and maybe let the rest of the people's children disappear totally, or rather come back when they are infuriated on all that. So it means that sometimes when your child is abducted and you don't have connections, you may not see them again. But if you have this connection, then you get to see them. So what a country, actually. From this kind of unmasking moments, we get to realize a lot of dirty secrets from the government, right? Yeah, so Jack, I hope you're on board. I'm waiting for your like. Collins Olo, I don't know whether you went. Susan Kimani, you are the first here. And the rest of the people are coming by. So let's listen for more here and gather some receipts.
Meaning he knew what was going on.
I could see.
Yes.
So we finished, and I just left him and I drove off. Time.
The adverts here. I have to skip, then proceed. Yeah, so.
And then he started now again going, promising others. That's when you would say, and you know, people are telling us, as you know, he came, promised this road, there were some tractors, immediately he left, the tractors were, then things were not that rosy. But I didn't have the benefit of knowing what was happening.
Yes.
The real issues that came there. I may have come to know them much later.
Yes.
But it was obvious to me. So by the time we were coming to the elections, even then my friend President Uhuru Kenyatta,
yes.
Initially I had also asked him whether the handshake and anything to do with the 2022 elections. And he had told me, no, there was nothing like that, that they just sat with the Raila and they discussed and thought that it was. So, everybody, and you know also the fact that, when they started off with Uhuru, they started off very, very, very well.
Yes.
And a lot of people thought that that was a very good union.
Yes.
And it was, I was even hesitant to take up the job of the AG when he offered me.
Are you saying that you never trusted William?
Trusted him fully. You know, they say the taste of the pudding is the eating.
Yes.
And that's why I told you, when he made the offer first, I said, no. And he sent an emissary,
yes.
The speaker. I still refused.
Yes.
Until when we met with him the next time, when I told him, now I laid bare what my fears were, yes. My worries about taking up the job.
Yes.
And he gave me the assurance that I know you are a stickler to the law.
Yes.
I want to guarantee that you will do your work as
yes.
expectant, and nobody is going to interfere with your work.
Yes.
So is Justin Muturi telling us that he's a man of intellect and maybe prudent enough to work without violating the law?
Public.
Is he trying to tell us that the reason he walked out of government is as a result of being, pulled into corridors he did not want?
To be workable?
Yes.
But somehow the Treasury never quite got into a formal agreement, contractual agreement with, they called webmasters.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
I hear you. Young people took to the streets, Mheshimiwa. The Gen Zs, you remember the Finance Bill 2025, and they were speaking to you in government, but you were not listening. These young people, they were saying that they don't want affordable housing. They were saying that they are overtaxed. They are saying that the cost of living had reached unbearable levels. But you people were not listening until you saw what they did in Parliament. What was going through your mind when you were seeing this kind of protest, young people coming out in big numbers and they are claiming their country back?
Actually, it's like all of us were on the same page because many, and actually if I was to even give some, because I like telling the truth.
Yes.
Actually, even this guy called Murkomen, I remember at committee, he actually raised a number of issues about that finance bill. We did not approve it as a committee. We said, let's go and discuss it in full cabinet. What happened then? Because everybody was raising a lot of issues. And it's like everybody could tell. And we could talk to people. We watched the presentations by the people before the finance committee of the House. It was a shame that the finance committee trashed.
So Muturi is revealing how much the leaders ignored during the budget 2024
but he says
budget.
that we did not see the people from the mountain or those who are pushing the Gen Zs to come out to come and say that Uhuru must go.
The Gen Zs are not being pushed by anybody.
That is what they are saying.
Yeah, that's what they are saying, but then we know for a fact nobody is pushing the Gen Zs to come out.
And why did they come out?
And let me say, well, one can only ask the Gen Zs. But remember,
yes, please,
there were protests led by the opposition in 2023, citing the issue of...
My work is easy because I use ClickUp. Here's how I keep track of all my tasks.
Oh my goodness. So you've seen that question on why Gen Z had to arise in 2024 and not 2023 during the Ruto's, the Uhuru's government.
What was our response?
Right?
2024 finance bill. Yeah? We didn't care. And now, when they are given that money,
yes,
you see they just go to drink. So you take taxpayers' money from the consolidated fund to go and dish out to the public. How many members of public are able to get that money? Very few. As more is a drop in the ocean.
Tell me, who is the custodian of the Kenya Kwanza manifesto? The better, this thing that was so good that people were to begin, life was to change. Somebody steal it.
Every one of us who was in Kenya Kwanza has a copy of that manifesto, including me. So I would expect President Ruto, William Ruto, to have it.
Yes.
Yes. And I thought, when I was AG, every time the reason I kept it there is to look at the page. It's like for them, they don't care.
I hear you.
In fact, to an extent that one, and I would always...
So guys, Justin Muturi has testified that it's like most leaders don't care about the welfare of the people. Whatever happens, it's none of their business. As long as they get what they want and remain in power, that's all, right? So is Justin Muturi not confirming what Miguna has shared? Now let's get to Maraga and listen to what he says, because he's cautioning.
In accordance with the the Rome Statute, and I'm sure you will not be surprised kupata wamerudi. Wakati ule ni washahidi walikosa. Those people are not fools. This time around they could do their investigations very well na warudiwe. Lakini ile ambao ninaona hata kwa news internationally, the whole world is shocked by what is happening in Kenya. Not in a state of war to have 60 people dying in less than a month. Statements being made by none that shoot. That is not normal. Wakati huu kunaweza kuwa na dialogue itakuja kushughulikia vijana madai yao. Waliahidiwa mambo ambao wangefanyiwa na wakati huu the young people feel rigged out.
Now I listened to David Maraga.
So David Maraga is here again to drop a bomb. And I don't know why they are now coming out with these ICC charges, because do Kenyans really trust that ICC will work for anybody? I don't know. What is your thought? Because the ICC charges once came in during the, before Uhuru Kenyatta became the president, and that is actually what made them become the leaders, because they tended to have this sympathy aspect, like their communities feeling like they would be taken to Hague. And we saw a lot of the Kalenjin and Kikuyu people voting in to serve their own. So I don't know why the opposition has decided to take that move, because according to me, I feel like if you look back at history and what happened, it shouldn't be a subject that really comes up. you know. We shouldn't be talking about anything to do with ICC. Maybe, does this mean that the opposition feels outwit, or what exactly makes them think that they should go to such a discussion, you know? I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure as to why they have had to decide to go into this, you know? Yeah, so guys, those are some of the reactions I've just seen on the streets, you know, focusing on the aspect of the current leadership, the previous mistakes. And I was here to ask you, what is the impact of what we are hearing, whether from Maraga, Muturi, Gashago, of course, we've seen in many of the videos, and I didn't want to bring him here. And what we've heard from Miguna, the radical guy from Canada, you know. And of course, we've had so many people talking about this and that, but I just focused on those. And my question is, what is your view? Whether you'll be watching now or later, I would actually wish to get your opinion, or rather, what is your thought, you know? These are things happening around us, and they may have impact on tomorrow, or rather the election or the view of the people. So what do you think? What is your thought about what might just be coming for us? What is the shock that we're going to get from this? Yeah, what impact does it have on Matiang'I's presidential position, Sakaja? Or we've also had the mentioning of Sifuna, and we've had the mentioning of Babu Owino. Yeah, when you hear about Muturi's speech and Murage, they're generally talking about the president himself. And of course, those who are surrounding them, you know, Kimani Chungwa, Sudi, Farouk, and the rest of them, you know. So that is it, guys, from Life Saga TV. We've taken a lot of time here, and I actually would wish that you reflect upon these political matters that are unraveling day after day, and you give your thought, you give your reaction, you give your insight into what we are seeing on the streets, you know, because this is our country and we've actually seen a lot, heard a lot. So let's meet again in another reaction later. Of course, focus towards the dynasties, the dictatorial dynasties that we have in this Africa at large, Ivory Coast, Uganda, and talk about Cameroon, you know. So thank you so much for those who have been on board. I would wish actually to give just 2 minutes for anybody who has a question relating to what I'm talking about, or maybe a suggestion into the political corridors. What is your thought? What is your question? What is your, you know, your consideration? What is your worry? What is your anxiety? You know, these are the moments. Let's talk. All right, it seems nobody has a question for now, or a concern, or maybe a suggestion. But you are free to suggest maybe a topic I should talk about, analyze, or raise questions surrounding what I've done, because the videos I've done, whether live or just videos, are there on board. So you're free to ask questions, interact, and God bless you, because actually politics is something you have to talk about every day, whether a woman or man, girl, or lady, and all that. So thanks, people.